Vanderbilt star guard Mikayla Blakes will win the SEC Player of the Year.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are on Locked On Women's Basketball, your team every day. My name is Kalia Butler, the sideline reporter for the Chicago Sky. Thanks for being an everydayer and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. As always, I'm joined with Sophia Jones, the radio analyst for the Golden State Valkyries. Sophia, what should we be on the lookout for today?
Today, we're going to get into a little bit of postseason speculation.
All right, we're going to go over our roadmap for the day. First off, the Lynx are going to be playing the Nigerian national team. We're going to talk about why this is probably going to be, honestly, one of the most elite international matchups the WNBA has seen just yet. We're going to get into Unrivaled because the playoffs are set. It's really about that time already. Everything is happening so quickly. But when we're talking about getting towards the end of the season, postseason speculation, as Sophia mentions, we're going to get into a little bit of what the player of the year could look like in the SEC alongside the freshman of the year, kind of comparing it to what the preseason poll looked like. So in my great opinion, and after doing the research and all the hard work of watching women's basketball this season, Mikayla Blakes is going to win the SEC Player of the Year award. She is currently the SEC's offensive leading scorer. She's averaging 26 points a game. I think we've talked about it before as well. She's improved not only from last year being the overall SEC Freshman of the Year, she's improved her defensive prowess, which has been significant in Vanderbilt's growth this season. She has led Vanderbilt to one of the most elite seasons that this program has ever had in general. And I think her leadership both on and off the court has allowed players like another freshman, Aubrey Galvin, to come in and pave the way for herself as well, allowing to play off of Mikayla Blakes. I think it's really difficult to select just one player out of the SEC, but in terms of what Mikayla Blakes has looked like and the championship prowess that she has led Vanderbilt to be second in the SEC right now after being ranked to finish in 7th at the beginning of the season, just right behind a South Carolina team. I think she has been the most efficient and elite player in the SEC.
I would have to agree. And I think there are different voter philosophies when it comes to Player of the Year. You either look at, okay, who is the best player on the best team, or who is just the best outright player. When you look at the best player on the best team, I would have to lean towards Joyce Edwards of South Carolina. She is one of the leading scorers within the SEC. She's a leading scorer on her team, averaging 20 points per game. South Carolina right now is at the top of their conference. But I look at Mikayla Blakes and what she has done for Vanderbilt, and she separates herself in so many different categories, all the ones that you mentioned. But for Vanderbilt to not be that far behind South Carolina, and when you look at how responsible Mikayla Blakes is for their success, she would have to be my Player of the Year as well. And just like you mentioned, her scoring, her playmaking, her defensive ability has really improved this season. And I think if you pick her off Vanderbilt's team, they are not nearly the same look that they currently are. If you take Joyce Edwards off of South Carolina, I think you still get a really competitive squad.
I think that's the highlight of it too, is if you remove Mikayla Blakes from this team, what type of season would Vanderbilt have had these past 2 years? Just looking at the season that she has year. We already knew when she was putting up 40-point performances as a freshman that she was something special. Looking at Mikayla Blakes this season, she has had 10 30-point performances, which is the most in Division I this season. Just in February, so this month, she's had 6 games where she is averaging 32 points per game and 5 assists per game, which is 4 of top 16 wins, and then 29.9 points per game in just SEC play with 9 straight 20-point games. And the accolades keep going on, as I mentioned. 26 points per game is what she's averaging overall this season, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, which leads the nation in all of these stats. And she's the first player, leads the nation within at least the points per game right now. And then the first player to 700 points this season. And again, one of the best years Vanderbilt has had in the history of the program. She's hard to argue against, I would say. It's really hard for you to not see Mikayla Blakes' performance and what she's been on this team still as just a freshman and a sophomore, to knowing that she still has 2 more years left in this Vanderbilt program, and just seeing what she can become. She's going to continue being an absolute menace to the SEC and trying to figure out how to even guard her. But when we're looking at some other players that could possibly stand out for player of the year, the preseason player of the year was actually picked to be Madison Booker. Madison Booker is still having an elite season. But what has maybe stood out to you about her continuing to be maybe a player of the year contention or not?
You have to look at Texas's strength as a team and how responsible she is for that. I do believe that this year the Longhorns are a more balanced squad, where we have seen certain games where it might be someone else other than Madison Booker really step up. But Booker is still averaging 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, extremely efficient, 51% shooting. So she is just a major weapon. And again, you look at some of the one-on-one hardest players to guard within the SEC, Madison Booker is really up there, and it makes a total sense why she was the preseason player of the year.
Let's take a look at the freshmen too, because there have been some standout freshmen within the SEC. I think one that comes to mind for me has to be Kalia Chavez. When we're talking about having the faith in a player to come in as a freshman and get things going for you offensively, we've already talked about how she basically has a green light to take any shot, and for good reason. She's averaging 18 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 38% from the field. We have seen her completely changed games for Oklahoma, put up significant performances. I think one that really stood out was even against beating a South Carolina team and giving them their only conference loss of the season, largely back because the team kind of goes as she goes. Oklahoma is still another team, if you remove her, has a lot of strengths, don't get me wrong. But I think when you're looking at the overall offensive production for Oklahoma, a lot of that is because the ball is leaving her hand at a very high clip.
The characteristics of Oklahoma's team is they want to get out, play fast. They have a very high octane offense, not afraid to score early in the shot clock. And for a point guard freshman, especially in Kalia Chavez, to come in and continue setting the tone for the way that the whole team wants to play, I think that's what's so important, what makes her a really high contender within this freshman of the year race. Her scoring has been outstanding this year, 18.5 points per game, but also throwing in that 4.3 assists. So she's playmaking, not just looking for her own shot. I would say the freshman of the year race has to be between her and I would throw in Aubrey Galvin. And I think what is not making Kalia Chavez the favorite for freshman of the year is that efficiency is a little bit lower. She's only shooting 38.2%. Whereas you look at Aubrey Galvin, she's averaging 13 points, so a little bit lower scoring, higher in assists. She's averaging 6 assists per game, which you look at her being responsible for so much of Vanderbilt's offensive success. And Mikayla Blakes, in turn, because of that backcourt tandem, she's one of the leaders in the conference already in that assist category, also shooting 43%. So she a little bit more efficient in that regard, but this is going to be a really tight one. There's only one game left for these teams within, or one or two games, I believe, left in the regular season for these teams. It could really come down to that very final matchup.
Yeah, Aubrey Galvin is one that stands out for me as well because she puts her teammates in positions to succeed. And I think a lot of that also is feeding Mikayla Blakes. We've talked a lot about allowing Mikayla Blakes to play a little bit more off ball. When we're seeing how efficient Mikayla Blakes is shooting, a lot of that is because Aubrey Galvin has figured out when to feed her, when to allow her to catch the ball in rhythm and get her shots. We obviously know Mikayla Blakes can literally create any opening for herself, but Aubrey Galvin has allowed her to play a little bit more in that space. But Aubrey Galvin, too, you have to just give her credit for coming in. She wasn't overly highly recruited. She was one of the top players in Illinois, but she's a small girl. She's rostered as 5'6", but she's really like 5'4", 5'5". So to come in and basically prove people wrong and put your trust in a small point guard like that and seeing how successful she has been, again, as a freshman coming into the SEC, coming out of Illinois, playing Chicago-style basketball. Thank you. It's really cool to see. So I give her credit in that category as well. It's going to be a very tough race, but stay with us because the stage is being set for the playoffs in Unrivaled, and we have to keep you up to date. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. And who doesn't want to experience the NBA Finals, especially when you can bring a buddy, a friend, your lover, who knows? Bring somebody with you to watch the NBA Finals because this is something you don't want to miss out on. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which teams can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I don't like paying rent, and I bet you don't either, but Built makes it a little bit better. Built is the loyalty program for renters that rewards you monthly with points and exclusive benefits in your neighborhood. Let me explain. With Built, every rent payment earns you points that can be used towards flights, hotels, Lyft rides, Amazon.com purchases, and just so much more. And here's something I'm really excited about. This month, Built members have earned on mortgage payments for the very first time. So soon you'll be able to get rewarded wherever you live and unlock exclusive benefits with more than 45,000 restaurants, fitness studios, pharmacies, and other neighborhood partners. Personally, I would redeem my points for Lyft rides because sometimes it's just more convenient to get in a Lyft when I'm traveling around the city. I live in Chicago. So why not be able to capitalize on those extra payments I'm making when I don't feel like dealing with the parking? So join the loyalty program for renters at joinbuilt.com/lockedonwomen. That's JOINBILT.com/lockedonwomen. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Okay, as I mentioned, the stage has been set for the playoffs. The playoffs will feature 3 rounds of single elimination games in Unrivaled. So whoever claims the number 1 seed will be awarded a first round bye, will automatically advance to the semifinals, which are being played at the Barclays Center in New York on March 2nd, which is coming up here shortly. We have kind of talked about the teams that are cemented into the playoffs. The Phantom are currently at that number 1 spot right now. Sophia, when we're taking a look at who else has kind of made it in this playoff run, and who we can be excited for going into the semifinals. What stands out to you most?
The Mist is a team that stand out to me because right now they're sitting at that number 2 seed, which bumped the Laces down a spot. And for the majority of the season, the Laces were actually in that number 1 spot. Phantom, they made a really late push. They're on a 6-game win streak. Those are kind of the 3 teams that I would put a lot of stock in, but rounding out the playoff picture, Breeze in 4th, Rose in 5th, and Vinyl in 6th. The teams have one more day of play on Friday this week, so we could see some more shifts there, but I am also having a major eye on a Phantom because Satu Sabali was recently in Sephora Arena in Miami. We know she has been away from the team recovering from her concussion injury that she suffered during the WNBA finals all the way back in October. She could potentially be healthy. And if she manages to get on that Phantom team and give them that final boost for this playoff picture, that could be major.
Yeah, I was seeing videos, and for some reason, I don't know why, I was like, is this an AI? Like, I have not seen Satu Sabali in forever. First of all, outfit was very cute, very on point, and I was like, oh, she's back for real. Because they never fully said she was out for the season. It was out until she can come back, essentially. So, it was kind of hinted when we saw Angel Reese in Miami and she was at the games. Then all of a sudden she's back on the Rose roster. I don't know if this is Unrivaled liking to do like the soft launches of look who's in the arena. This is going to actually be who's on the court coming up very soon. But if they were to add Satu Sabali to come in at the very end, hopefully she is healthy enough to start participating again. They can be a very dangerous team. When we're looking at what the bracket kind of looked like last year for the semifinals, looking a little different. The Lunar Owls had faced Vinyl. Obviously, the Lunar Owls not having the best season without Nafisa Collier. Rose against the Laces, and then the final was the Vinyl versus the Rose. What do you think this semifinals and finals matchup could look like this year?
I really couldn't tell you. I do think that the Phantom are going to lock themselves in at that number 1 seed. But the biggest thing, I think it will be very important to get those top 2 seeds because you want to get that bye into the semifinal, get a little bit more time off your legs. That would be major. But looking at last year's bracket, where in the semifinals, Lunar Hours, they were looking dominant all season long. They came in as a number 1 seed and then were beat by the number 4 seed in Vinyl. And then in the final, you get the 2 seed Rose winning everything against that 4 seed. So because the high end, the talent is so high, just making the playoffs is a huge thing because I think once you get there, everything is quite frankly up for grabs.
And let's talk about the incentives with it too, because there is a prize pool. We have seen that these players like to play for the money, and I don't blame them. So the prize pool for the players who win the title is $600,000. Last season, each player got $50,000 bonus on championship winning team. So everyone on the roster wins. And I believe when Chelsea Gray had won the 1v1s, everybody else gets a bonus from it too for her team. So they are playing for money here. It's like Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, and he's like, money, money, money. But I don't blame them because when you have an additional $600,000 to play with, it's not just, oh, okay, we win a title. That's great. Obviously, if you win a WNBA championship, if you win a championship anywhere, you get additional money. But $600,000 for a obviously smaller roster as well, because it's just a 3v3. There is stuff on the line. So we can see that they are going to lock in here very soon. Excited to see what those semifinal matchups will look like coming up on March 2nd. But stay with us because we still have the Minnesota Lynx and Nigerian national team going up against each other this season. And it will be one of the most competitive international matchups in the WNBA, in my opinion.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you still have to fill sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs.
The Minnesota Lynx recently announced that the Nigeria's women's national basketball team will play the WNBA franchise historic preseason friendly game at T-Mobile Center, which is in Kansas City, on April 27th. So coming up here very soon. The game was announced by the Lynx as part of a 3-game preseason slate that includes the Washington Mystics and Toronto Tempo, one of the WNBA's newest franchise teams. We have seen this happen before in terms of WNBA teams going up against an international team. They will actually be only the third WNBA team to play an international team after the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky both faced Brazil. They both defeated the women's national team for Brazil as well, 108-44 for the Indiana Fever, and then 89-62 for the Chicago Sky. But I'm here to tell you that the Nigerian women's basketball team is not to be played with at all, because they just recently came off of a AfroBasket win. That is their 5th consecutive title. They won this back on Sunday, August 3rd, where they defeated Mali 78-64. They are very used to winning, let's say, and they are a very highly competitive team. As I mentioned, they're the reigning AfroBasket champions, and they claimed their 5th consecutive title. I think, the Brazilian national team was a fantastic team as well, too. And I love the expansion of this. And obviously for the Sky in particular, Camila Cardoso being able to play with her national team. However, I think this is going to be a more competitive game compared to the Brazilian one.
I would have to agree. Nigerian women's national team is essentially a powerhouse within the continent of Africa. You mentioned the consecutive championships that they have won in AfroBasket, but they're led by Amy Okonkwo. She played with the Dallas Wings last season, and I remember calling her games. She was calling her games when I was on radio with the Golden State Valkyries, and she was a midseason pickup for them. And I looked over her stats, was very impressed, saw all the accomplishments that she had with the Nigerian national team. And she came in that game and was just relentless. She is a really talented scorer, great physicality and athleticism to her game. She's going to be someone that the Lynx are going to have to keep their eye out for, one. And it's an opportunity for these players to get in front of the U.S. crowd and some WNBA scouts, which as the game continues to grow and you get more expansion teams, it could essentially feel like a bit of a tryout.
Yeah, because when we're looking at some of the players that, as you mentioned, have been picked up essentially mid-season for some of the WNBA teams, a lot of them have come from international play. They've had, some American players that have come in and out, been on a couple-day contract or whatever the case may be. But I think even for the Chicago Sky, they brought in Sevgi Uzun, who is from Turkey. But that was kind of a sentiment for a lot of different teams across the WNBA. They were picking up some international players to come help finish out the season. And I think when you're looking at this Nigerian team too, there just are a lot of standout players, but also another Sky connection. They are led by Coach Reina Wakama, who was also an assistant coach for the Chicago Sky. She did leave during the season for a little bit so that she can go help lead Nigeria to their 5th consecutive title. So, even looking aside from the player aspect of things, there's also coaches that are coming in from the WNBA where it's a next level of, as you mentioned, being able to give these players another platform. And even when you look at how successful like NBA Africa is, I think trying to translate that over to the WNBA side as well could be really unique. Even just looking at Project B, there's just so much international talent out there that we don't even know about. So alongside the WNBA growing, it's allowing women in these other countries to also kind of get a spotlight too.
Yeah, for a while it was, the WNBA, they're expanding, they're growing this globalization effort. I think you look at EuroLeague as well. That's always been a really high talent league. Even the Australian Basketball League, the WNBL, has had some really great talent. Veronica Burton was someone that played in that last year. I feel like every team has someone that has played, or every WNBA team has had someone that has played in that league. But it's really been competitive. And like you said, even thinking about Project B, the game and women's basketball is really worldwide. And I think you really see it within that Nigerian national basketball team because of how dominant they've been and just the exposure that they are now getting, because you are bringing a couple of markets together. And just with the WNBA season and looking at the growth of the league again, the more eyeballs you can bring in, the better. And this is something more that we'll still have to see get worked out with this upcoming WNBA CBA. And the Nigerian national team hasn't quite confirmed yet because they're having some leadership movement, but hopefully this happens.
We had a whole entire Nigerian night for the Sky last year too. There are a lot of Nigerian players just within the WNBA who have, family members that are from Nigeria. We have Mikayla Blakes, who's currently with UCLA helping out with their coaching staff. Elizabeth Williams. I remember interviewing Elizabeth Williams' mom during Nigerian night and just talking about just, how proud she was being able to not only represent her family, but being able to represent Nigeria as a whole too. So it's really cool to see this crossover, and ideally it all works out and these two teams can play against each other, because I really think this could be a super fun matchup.
I would have to agree. My grandpa was born in Nigeria as well, so I have a little personal connection that I'm really excited to see play out.
We all have a connection here. I love it. That is the power and beauty of sports. But thank you all so much for tuning in with us today on Locked On Women's Basketball. We will be back again